Africa. I'm T-Brain, the ICT expert.
Good afternoon. Yes, colleagues from Techno and their partners. It's a great pleasure and a great honor for me to be standing here before you. This is my first time, I believe, to attend your conference. I can see I'm dressed all wrong since I see a lot of gray shirts, but I'll remember what to do next year, which is maybe to come without the shirt, then I'll wear it when I get here. Much like many of the gentlemen I observed in the last clips. Okay, so I've been asked to talk about making a citizen-friendly public service, and I'll try and keep it very short, no slides or anything like that. We are very conscious as government that things have changed. I was just saying I was a lecturer for 22 years. We had the privilege of having a captive audience in those days because people had to look at the blackboard because there was nothing else for them to look at. Now we have escaped audiences. I know at least a quarter of my audience here is escaped. They're probably somewhere under their desk with some device. And I believe government is very much the same way now, that it's very easy to have an escaped citizen. And therefore, we must engage with our audience in a very different way from the past if we are to be an effective government. The ICT Authority is the ICT body that brings together all the ICT agencies in government. And it's called an authority because we are, in fact, in charge of all the infrastructure, all the systems in the public sector, as well as nationally. And therefore, increasingly, although it's only about 5 months old, it will be an organization that you cannot ignore. So I'll say a little bit about what we are thinking about going forward in terms of how we need to look at people. This morning, Mahesh said that it's all about the customer. Recently, I was in an HR forum, and somebody there said, one of the very senior HR managers there said something which was very interesting to me, because she said, HR is not about managing people. It is about producing products and processes for the organization. Now, I was actually shocked because I thought HR was all about people. But often, technology becomes not about people, right? And yet, here we are, all of us sitting here, we're human beings. At the end of the day, we all want to laugh, be happy, take care of our families, and everything else we do is just for that, right? As government, we're becoming very conscious that this technology is all about people. And people nowadays play lots of different roles. And so I'm going to talk about people in 6 roles. Now, each of us will take more than one role. So that's why I'm calling them roles and not functions. So the 6 are the digital citizen, the digital worker, the digital learner, the digital technologist, the digital manager, and the digital leader. Let's start with the citizen. Here in Kenya, of course, we're already privileged that many of our citizens are becoming digital. They're especially tied to their phones, and they use their phones for communication, both in terms of voice and texting. An increasing number of them, almost half, are also using it for data and accessing the internet. And a very large majority are also using it to do various things with money, mostly transfer money from one place to another. But I see this as a trend that's going to increase. and one where the citizen will expect to interact with government through exactly the same device. So as you're sitting here trying to hide your smartphone under your desk, I'm sure some of you are paying your bills, some of you are looking for information, some of you may even be contacting your child's school because some of them send text messages to say your child has arrived, left, passed an exam, failed an exam, or whatever else they want to tell you. Use it for entertainment. Maybe some of you are already looking for those clips that you've just watched so that you can download the best, the one you enjoy. And of course you have all kinds of intelligent consumer electronics in the house. So we're very conscious that it is necessary for us to meet the needs of this new digital citizen who is very tied to a certain device, and we need to start delivering services through that device. And as you know, the President, first of all, has ordered us that by April next year, payments to government will be done electronically. You're still a parent, you're still a spouse, you're still a community worker, and it's necessary for you to do those things. You don't want to have to drive down thicker roads in order to do them. You want to be able to do many of those things in the same kind of seamless environment. Then there's the whole issue of learning. And one of the things that has happened in this world today is that we've all become lifelong learners. If by show of hands, how many of you are enrolled in some course or the other or have been in the last 6 months? Okay, not as many as I expected, or maybe it's just lazy hands. But I think increasingly your education doesn't finish when you leave university, right? You have to continuously join one course or another, and you have to learn. And indeed, recently in the government, we were concerned about our ICT workers and the way they get promoted, because we felt that there was a way in which they were rising through the ranks without seeming to have the proper skills, competencies, or attitudes. And therefore, we felt that every worker must go through certain courses every year. And then we are told, no, that's not possible in government, because we have to have equity, and of course some of your workers are in disadvantaged areas, so they don't get access to these courses. So one of the things we've done in response to that is to bring in electronic learning, so that as long as the worker has access to broadband, they can follow exactly the same set of courses regardless of their location. And I believe I've just been to a curriculum development workshop when I ran out, and we were discussing exactly the same thing, that how much learning has to become part of life, and how much we need to use the new technology in order to make learning easily accessible and easy to follow. Just three more things. Of course, to keep all this working, I'm so glad to see many of you in your gray shirts. Of course, many of you are technical people. And in order to keep all this going, if we're going to have digital workers, digital citizens, digital learners, digital leaders, digital managers, that means we also need the engineers to keep this working. Recently, we started delivering our civil registration using the network, broadband, and that's when it really came home to me how good we have to be in terms of our SLAs, because literally, if things go down for 8 hours, clerks around the country sit with their arms folded for 8 hours. Yeah, and whatever that means for the citizen is terrible. So it's come to the stage where technology is no longer the icing of on the cake. It is the cake. Yeah, and if it's not there, people can't work, things go wrong. And therefore, the quality of people that TechnoBrain has, and the quality of people that you train and produce for other organizations, has to be of a very high caliber, people who can meet those kind of SLAs. And that means not only that they have the technical skills, but also that they have the right attitude and the right degree of passion. I was in Burundi the other day, and they were translating what I said, and I talked about passion, and everybody started laughing. So I wondered how it had been translated. But in this case, I'm very glad that you seem to understand it in the sense that I meant it. Then the managers, Oracle has gone away, so I can talk about them. They're actually the ones who had invited me to this HR thing. And they were showing this wonderful tool where you can do everything. You can see what your workers are doing, and I think you can even sack them with 2 clicks. And it was at this forum where the HR themselves were saying they're not about people. But management is increasingly about managing people, right? And it's getting very hard because you have generation X, Y, Z, and I don't know where you go after that. It's AA, BB, in the workplace. And you have to get them to be productive. So the manager of the future has to be equipped with all these tools, and I'm glad that the next but one person is going to be speaking about HR. They need project management tools, they need operational management tools, they need performance management tools, they need financial management tools, they need an arsenal of tools because of the complexity and the degree of performance and productivity that is required of the manager. Perhaps the most interesting is the digital leader. We have digital leaders in Kenya, right? Because that was the election platform. They said we're digital and the rest are analog. And so we really have that saying. But what does it mean to be a digital leader? That's something we have to think about, because maybe this is the area which, as software, the ICT world, we are least supporting our leaders. Yeah? We have the fewest products. And yet, our leaders want to be digital leaders. And there's a lot of potential for this technology to help them to lead. So what kind of things are we talking about? We're talking about portals, yeah? We're talking about using social media to communicate with citizens. We're talking about government. I think the governor from ICT talked about having the budget on the website. So we need to empower leaders to know what kind of information do the citizens have to see. What do they want to see dynamically? You know, when you talk about big data or something like that, what do they want to see moment by moment? And what else do they need to communicate with people so that they can be judged as leaders? I'll stop there. I've taken my 15 minutes. But really, I just want to say how excited I am to have been invited. I can see the energy that there is here. I can see the Techno brain is growing. You know, I don't know in which country they'll be talking about 125% growth for a company. And so I believe that there's a lot we can talk about, and there's a lot we can learn from you, because we'd like to not grow. Of course, government is supposed to be contracting, not growing. But we would like to have 125% better engagement with our citizens. And we can only do that if we learn from you how you grow the satisfaction of your customers to the extent that you can grow at that rate. So I'll stop right there and just say thank you very much for listening to me, and maybe you'll invite me next year.